In this documentary, I'm going to discuss the state known as New York. New York is a state off the east coast of America. Actually, it was one of the first 13 states, but at the time they were called colonies. Personally, I think the word state is much better. The state was founded in 1624, 397 years ago from today. This is what people look like today compared to the 1600s. Wow. It was called New York after Dutch settlers named it New Amsterdam, and when the English moved in, they renamed it New York in honor of Duke York. New York has 2 senators and 27 state representatives. I'm not going to name all of them, but if you are interested, you can click the link in the description below. During the 1700s, New York was under the rule of King Charles II, but in 1783, it was made its own state and was under the rule of President George Washington. New York's climate is humid subtropical, meaning in the winter it's really wet and sometimes snows. In the summer, it gets hot and humid. It's New York though, so it gets rain all year round. New York has lots of countryside, and that's what upstate New York is. There's a lot of farming, so the climate isn't like the city. It's good for farming. The climate today is identical to the climate of New York in the 1600s. During the time of the Revolution, they had corn husk weaving competitions, quilting, shooting contests, horse races, and kids played marbles for entertainment. Location and geography. New York is about half the size of Oregon, but listen up. New York has about 5 times the people. Oregon has about 4 million, while New York has 19 million. When people think of New York, they think of a grand old city, but it's only about the size of 2 Portlands. Most of New York is nature reserves, like the Adirondacks and the Mackenzie Mountain Wilderness. New York is located right above Pennsylvania and left of Vermont. The other surrounding sides is Canada. New York City and Long Island were both British military outposts from the years 1776 to 1783. It was mixed between rebel and loyal. Trade. New York had a lot of trade since it was a very resourceful state. They had corn, wheat, livestock, iron ore and bars, hemp, horses, lumber, coal, furs, and shipbuilding. Culture. New York was and is full of lively people. In New York, there was lots of people, and there was lots of loyalist concentration groups. Lots of people wanted to serve the king, and some wanted to have freedom. There was a lot of religious diversity. It was very free to worship whoever you wanted. There was a mix of Catholics, Jews, Lutherans, and Quakers. Rebel/loyalist colony. New York City and Long Island were British military outposts from the years 1776 to 1783, as I mentioned before. It was very mixed between rebel and loyal. There are a lot of cities and towns in New York, so if you are interested, there's a link in the description below for all the towns and cities. Fort Ticonderoga. On April 19, 1775, the Battle of Lexington and Concord ended. The colonists followed British troops back to Boston to seize the city, but they had a low supply of artillery, which Fort Ticonderoga had plenty of. The fort was 200 miles north on the shores of Lake Champlain, but was under the control of the British. It was originally built to regulate the waterways between Canada and the Hudson River Valley. Fort Ticonderoga was strategically unimportant to them. It was used to store artillery with minimal protection. Benedict Arnold, a militia captain who was pretty familiar with the fort, approved a secret mission to overtake Ticonderoga and ship any useful artillery back to the American army. He soon learned that Ethan Allen, the leader of the Green Mountain Boys, had already left north to take on the same task. When they met, they argued over who was going to lead the attack on the fort. They confirmed that they would attack together. May 10th, 75 at dawn. Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold began their attack on Ticonderoga. They crossed the waters of Lake Champlain and crept up on the hill to the entrance of the fort. The door was left wide open where sleeping guards sat. When the guard woke up, he fired, but the musket didn't fire, and he ended up running away. They infiltrated the base, and the British were woken up at gunpoint. They successfully overrid the base without firing a single shot. The much-needed artillery was delivered to the American army, and just 2 months later the Americans were able to overthrow the British and send them into evacuation. Without Fort Ticonderoga, the probability of the Americans winning over the colonies would have been much lower. New York had a big role in the American Revolution and is home to many beautiful things, and I thank you for watching. Bibliography is in the description below, and the links I suggested for checking out. Thanks.